What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Haunted Beard. My name is Jake. Thanks again for joining me. So if you've been following along, I have been going through the Tales from the Crypt series, and I'm going through season by season and doing a ranking video of every episode in that particular season. And today I am on season 3, and I kind of felt like changing it up a little bit. Let me know what you guys think, if you prefer the tier list, which is what I'm going to do today, or if you like more of the just kind of the traditional ranking video. But I felt like doing a tier list. Haven't done one for a while, and it seemed appropriate. So we're going to go through all 14 episodes in season 3 and rank them via tier list. So here we go. All right, so here we go. We got our 5 tiers here, and of course, these are all on theme. These are all quotes from the Crypt Keeper, but we've got Happy Crypt Day to Me. This one's a Crypt Keeper, Hello Boils and Ghouls, Betty Crocker's Cookbook, and Ready Your Vomit Bags. Hey guys, I'm editing this video, and I'm just about done, and I don't know how I missed it, but one of the tiers, it's supposed to be Betty Crocker's Cookbook, not Betty Crocker's Cookbook. I don't know how I missed that. I just failed. I don't know what else to say, but yeah, because Betty Crocker's Cookbook is just Betty Crocker's Cookbook. So anyways, I didn't catch my mistake until now, but I caught it, so there you go. Okay, back to the video. So, without further ado, episode 1 is Loved to Death, and this one for me, I'm gonna put in Betty Crocker's Cookbook, as this one was okay. So this one's about this guy. He's like this aspiring screenwriter, and he lives in this apartment complex. He's kind of down on his luck. He's, you know, barely scratching by sort of thing, and he's got this massive crush on his neighbor, and she's played by Mariel Hemingway. And he is basically like using her likeness as the character that he's writing about in his screenplay. And he's like, he's basically using her and the screenplay that he's writing to like act out his fantasies that he's having about her. Only she's kind of a horrible person. She's like this gold digger who doesn't give him the time of day and is just all around not the most pleasant person, but he's just obsessed and infatuated with her. And he's got this creepy landlord who's played by David Hemmings, the dude from the Argento movie, Deep Red. And he's this really creepy guy, and he goes to him one day, and he gives him this love potion. And of course, she, you know, now falls madly in love with him, but of course, you know, be careful what you wish for kind of thing. And this episode, it's just I will give it a little bit of credit. I thought the ending is kind of fun, but most of it is this show. I'm kind of figuring out, having now watched 3 seasons. You know, ultimately, it kind of depends on how the humor works for you, and there's a lot of episodes that deal with some sort of, you know, love triangle or love type of aspect. And it, you know, like with anything, it just sort of depends if that works for you. And there's not really much horror here. It's kind of more humor type stuff. And, you know, it's just kind of meh. The ending is kind of fun, but the rest of it didn't really leave much of an impact. So I'm going to keep it there in Betty Crocker's Cookbook. Next up, we've got episode 2, which is called Carry On Death. And Carry On Death for me, I'm going to put Carry On Death in Hello Boys and Ghouls. So this one is, it's kind of middle of the road. It's enjoyable. It's decent enough. It stars Kyle MacLachlan, who I like, and he is this like sadistic serial killer who just broke out of jail. And he's on this getaway, and he's trying to get to Mexico to cross the border. And it really all takes place in the middle of the desert, not far from the border. And he is trying to get into Mexico, but he's being pursued by this cop. And so there's not much story to this one. It's basically just a chase episode, right? That's really all it is. He's trying to get there. The cop's chasing him down. Will he get him? Will he not? Is he going to survive? And things like that. And so it's all pretty straightforward. I think MacLachlan, this is an episode that would have been better if there would have been less talking, which is kind of weird to say, but like so much of it is just McLaughlin wandering through the desert, but he's talking and like saying how he feels and saying what he thinks and saying what he's going to do. And I just feel like his performance is kind of overstated. Like less is more would have been better. This could have like almost been like a silent episode, or at least like a non-talking episode, and it would have worked, I think, better than it did. But it's decent enough. You know, it's got kind of some thrills there, as you know, you're kind of wanting to see if he can make it or if the cop's going to get him, and kind of turns into this battle of wits, who's going to outsmart who kind of thing, and who's going to ultimately survive, or what's going to happen sort of thing. So there's some fun to be had, but I will say that the real highlight is the ending. The ending is quite good. There's this vulture that continually follows McLaughlin through the desert, reminding him that death is like, you know, looming over him, and is he going to escape the vulture? And the ending is pretty satisfying. So that's kind of where this one gets at least sort of a decent enough middle of the road type of watch, where I at least enjoyed it, but it's nothing super great. So that's where that one's going to go. Next up is episode 3, titled The Trap. And The Trap for me is unfortunately going to go in the bottom tier, Ready Your Vomit Bags. I didn't really care for this one all that much. And this one was directed by Michael J. Fox, which I like. I wish it would have been better, but it just didn't really work for me. So this one, you've got this story of this married couple. The husband, Lou, he just got canned from his job. He's kind of not a great guy, and he decides to fake his death with the help of his wife and his brother, who is this mortician guy, in order to commit insurance fraud, so that him and his wife can, like, you know, move to Mexico and, you know, live happily ever after kind of thing, you know, with all their money. And things don't go according to plan. And the thing with this one is that what happens is so kind of ridiculous and absurd that I just thought it was stupid. And I understand this show kind of leans into that sometimes, and when it works, when kind of the over-the-top, absurd, ridiculous humor works, that's what makes it great. But, you know, of course, it's not going to work every time, and this is kind of one of those examples where it just didn't really work all that well. So like what ends up happening is the husband, they fake his death and everything. He ends up going to Mexico to kind of lay low for a while and let some time go by. And his wife's supposed to go out there and meet him. This is going to get a little into spoilery territory, just so you're aware. But anyways, and she never shows up, because we find out that she is actually in love with his brother. And then he comes back and they claim to not even know him. And there's just some stuff that happened that it's just so ridiculous. And trying to sell this idea that, like, they don't know him, and then eventually, like, it goes to court, and he can't convince anybody that he's the real guy and that he faked his death. It's just like, it just seems so, it's too much. I just couldn't buy it. I couldn't believe it. And so, yeah, this is another one. It's very light on horror. There's not really any horror here. It's largely just kind of dark humor that didn't really work for me. So that's why that one is at the bottom. Next up, we've got episode 4. Episode 4 is called Abra, Kadaver. And this one for me is going all the way up in the very top. Happy Crypt Day to me. Man, this was a really good episode. This one stars Beau Bridges and Tony Goldwyn, and they play brothers. And this one opens up, and it's black and white. And man, I don't want to give anything away, because there's so many surprises to have here. But basically, there is this prank that goes wrong, and it prevents Beau Bridges from realizing his dream. They're these doctors, and it turns into this revenge story. And I just bought into it. This one had some genuine, good, surprising moments, and it's dark and it's twisted, and it's just really good. It's good performances, a good story. It has the dark, sinister vibe to it, and it's just kind of messed up when you see the plan of revenge that Beau Bridges has for his brother and what he does to carry it out. It's just messed up. This one too had some good camera work, some nice like POV shots that I thought were used pretty effectively. It's just intense, it's thrilling, and the ending is diabolical, and it's just all around pretty great. So that's why it is in the top tier. Next up is episode 5, and that is Top Billing. And Top Billing for me is, this one's going to go in mid-tier. I did like this one a little bit more than Carry On Death, but it's going to go in Hello Boils and Ghouls. And this one stars Jon Lovitz. He is this struggling actor who just can't get a job, and he's down on his luck. He just got evicted out of his apartment. He's got no money. His girlfriend just dumped him. I mean, it sounds like a country music song. It's just all around a bad situation for this guy. He's got this rival actor who's a real jerk and like rubbing it in his face how he can't get any work. And basically the whole knock against Lovitz is not that he isn't talented. It's just that he doesn't have the look. Like he's not, this like leading attractive man who can, carry a movie or a show or something like that. And so what ends up happening is he finds this audition for Shakespeare's Hamlet, and he goes to audition for the part, and things happen that are not expected. And I like that it's pretty good. It's a decent one. It's enjoyable enough. Again, it's kind of a mid-tier, but I liked Lovitz here. I think he does a pretty good job. Him reading Shakespeare, I don't know, is just kind of it's just kind of odd, right? Because of who Lovitz is, and he's obviously lends more towards comedic stuff, and then here he's reading dramatic Shakespeare and stuff. But it's funny. It feels weird, but it like kind of works. I don't know. I liked it. I like kind of the theatrical setup here. He's auditioning for the Hamlet stage play, and then this is another one that. I will say even some of these that aren't great episodes, usually the ending is at least pretty good, and it makes, for the most part, the episode worthwhile. This is another one that the ending was kind of a surprise, and I thought it was another pretty good ending. So overall, it's a decent episode, but again, the ending is pretty good. But yeah, I'm gonna put Top Billing right there in the middle of Hello Boils and Ghouls. All right, next up we got episode 6, which is Dead Weight, and this one I'm gonna put this one in the mid tier again. Let's see, I'm gonna put it in between these two. It's another middle of the road one. This one was directed by Toby Hooper, and so after seeing that, I perhaps maybe got my expectations elevated a little bit. And so, again, this one was decent. This one has a handful of fairly well-known actors in it. You got John Rhys Davies, a.k.a. Gimli. You got James Remar, and you got Whoopi Goldberg, of all people. And James Remar is this guy. He's like this crook, and he's searching for this black pearl, this extremely rare, priceless gem sort of thing. And he meets John Rhys Davies, who's this guy. He's this really rich guy who owns this plantation on an island, and it turns out he owns the pearl, and Remar's trying to get it. This one too has a romance aspect to it because Remar and Rhys Davies' girlfriend, they end up hooking up and getting together. And it's really hard to do like a legit serious romance in these episodes, right? Every time it's happened, I write down, I'm like, it feels rushed. It feels forced. It just feels rushed, right? There's not really anything else to say. So the romance, for the most part, just doesn't work. It doesn't work in most of the episodes that it's in, and this is just another one. Overall, this is another one that it doesn't really do all that much that's memorable until you get to the ending. This is kind of another one where most of the episode it's fine, it's okay. There's not a whole lot I really have to say about it. The performances are fine. It kind of just seems almost sort of standard, par for the course sort of stuff. And then you get to the end and you get kind of some cool, a little bit of body horror, bloody gore. There's like a decapitation that's kind of cool and stuff like that. So it's another one that's like, yeah, it's decent, but hey, the ending's pretty good. And yeah, there's not really much more to say about this one. So I'm going to put it, right there in the middle. Next up, episode 7, we've got The Reluctant Vampire. This is another one I'm going to put down here at Betty Crocker's Cookbook. I wasn't really a huge fan of this one. This one stars Malcolm McDowell, and he plays a sort of well-meaning, well-intentioned vampire who goes by the name of Mr. Longtooth. Yeah. So there you go. He is this guy who works the security, the late night security shift at a blood bank. And instead of going out and getting blood from the source, he just steals the blood bags at night. Only he's gotten a little too zealous because now the blood bank is realizing that they have a thief and they're missing inventory. And so, yeah, he kind of has to figure out what to do in that situation. This is another one has a bit of a romance. One of the secretaries who works at the blood bank has a crush on him, but every time she tries to kind of make a move and get close to him and hug him, and his teeth come out and his fangs show, and so he's trying to keep a secret, and so he can't pursue a romantic relationship with her because he's a vampire. So there you go. This is another one that is very little horror and way more humor. It's just kind of more lighthearted and just kind of silly. Malcolm McDowell's fine. This one too has one of the highlights though is Michael Berryman plays Van Helsing, who realizes that there's a vampire on the loose, and so he's trying to investigate and figure out who it is. So I liked him in this, but this is it was just. There's not enough horror here. It's kind of more, not even really dark humor, just almost more like lighthearted humor, very just kind of mild, tame, not really much to the story. So yeah, it goes in Betty Crocker's cookbook for me. Okay, next up is episode 8, Easel Kill Ya, and this one is going all the way at the top to Happy Crypt Day to me. I really liked this episode. This one stars the great Tim Roth, and this is more of a character piece. He plays this struggling artist. I feel like that's a recurring theme. People's profession, they're struggling. Nobody's ever successful. They're always just down on their luck and, scraping to get by. But he plays this struggling artist who, is barely surviving, and he's looking for inspiration. He's trying to break out and find success, and hoping that somebody will like his paintings. And one night he ends up painting this dead body, and he finds a buyer, and it's this extremely wealthy dude who collects very morbid, dark, disturbing art that captures real death and things like that. And so he starts making money off of this guy. And it's this thing where, like I said, it's a character piece where, he's trying to do the good and right thing, but the demons are, just trying to break out of him, sort of thing. And he's trying to keep the demons at bay. But ultimately, things don't go well. But man, I really like this one. This one is like no humor, all horror. It's dark. It's twisted. The ending is another one that's like, man, dude, messed up, crazy. I really like Tim Roth here. One of the better, if not the best performance from any episode I saw in season 3. And I just like kind of the deep, dark, dramatic kind of character piece of this guy going down a dark path and, trying to stay out of it. But ultimately, he's just pulled further and further down to the dark side kind of thing. But this is a really good one. I quite enjoyed Easel Kill Ya. So next up is episode 9, titled Undertaking Pallor. And this is another one I am sticking all the way at the very top. I'm going to put it right in between those two. This is a really good one, man. This one is like if the Goonies got together and made a found footage film trying to solve or uncover a crime. And it's just a whole lot of fun. You got this group of kids who get together and they're carrying around movie cameras. They like just going around filming stuff. And they end up sneaking into this morgue, and they film some stuff of the mortician, and it turns out that he is doing some pretty shady stuff. And like I said, if you like those kind of 80s, kids movies like Goonies and stuff, and you like found footage, which I do, this is a really cool kind of combination of all that. This one stars Ke-Huy Quan, who you may know was in the Goonies, so just another reason why this one I really liked. And this one too, it has some good, just kind of some suspense and just kind of some good tension-filled moments as the kids are all in the morgue, you know, hiding out and trying not to get seen. And this one too has it has some good humor, some good dark humor. The mortician character is just this really weird, you know, guy. He's like, you know, examining cadavers and eating pizza and stuff like that. And so just kind of this weird character. This one too has kind of this, you know, sort of voyeuristic aspect to it, which I usually find pretty kind of interesting. And yeah, then they go and it kind of turns into this, you know, true crime type documentary as they, you know, start filming things and try to figure out what exactly is going on. And yeah, it's a fun one. You got some cool kind of cadaver body horror type effects here, and the ending's also pretty fun as well. And yeah, that's why this one's going at the very top. Next up is episode 10, which is Mournin Mess, and this is another one, everybody. This one's going right up to the top. I'm going to put this one, it could go, I'm going to put it right there. Yeah, we'll put it right behind Abra kadaver. This one might have the best story because this one is like a kind of murder mystery investigative type story, which I just can't help but love. And so I you know, in addition to horror, if you introduce some sort of murder investigative detective type story, man, I'm all in. And so this one is about this reporter who uncovers that there is this serial killer going around who is killing homeless people. And it turns out that there is this massive conspiracy and you have no idea where it goes. And like I said, this one is just a really good story that I just really bought into. It's got some nice twists and turns. And I love the murder mystery. I love that investigative aspect to it. And I love that conspiracy theory type vibe that this one gives you. And the ending on this one is awesome. It's just great, and I won't give anything away, but yeah, when you find out, you know, the answers to what exactly has been going on, I had a big old smile on my face. I thought it was just fantastic. I love the direction and ultimately where everything led to. I thought it was just pretty great stuff. So that's why it's going all the way at the top. Okay, let's see. Next up is episode 11, which is Split Second, and this one is going to go into... This one's a Crypt Keeper. I'm going to put it right there. Yeah, this one's pretty good. Made even better by a really solid, fun, satisfying ending. But this one's about this barmaid. She constantly gets hit on by all these really awful dudes. And one night, this guy comes in and you know, he kind of rescues her and saves her a little bit from, you know, this guy who's being a complete jerk. And so she immediately kind of is attracted to him and takes a liking to him. You know, he's kind of her, you know, knight in shining armor sort of thing. And, you know, she's the damsel in distress, I guess. So they end up getting married real quick. It's another kind of rush romance, but it at least sort of works. It works well enough. And he turns out to be not what she ultimately wants. And he's this extremely possessive, controlling, jealous guy. And, you know, she's this young, attractive woman who can turn heads and get any guy she wants. And she's living with him at the lumberjack camp up in the middle of the mountains. She's the only woman there. And they hire this new, like, young guy to work there, and she's got her eye on him, and she wants him. And so there's kind of this whole sort of steamy romance aspect to this one. But what makes this one good is the performance by the husband who's played by Brian James. One of the best performances in this season. Really, really good. Man, this guy, he just really owns and sells this role. Very effective, and he has some moments where he's just unhinged and is just really good at playing that type of character. This just really aggressive, possessive kind of guy. So he's really good, and the ending is really fun, really satisfying. Just classic Tales from the Crypt ending. It's bloody and it's just satisfying and pretty great. And so, yeah, that's what makes it a keeper. So there you go. Okay, next up we have got Deadline, which is, let's see, episode 12. And this one is going to go right up here. I'm going to actually put this one in front of Split Second. This is another good one. This one is about this guy, this newspaper man who's down on his luck. I feel like I've said that a handful of times, but he's an alcoholic, and he's lost his job, and so he's an alcoholic. He's trying to get work. He's trying to kind of get his life together, and his old boss gives him one final try to get his job back and get his life back on track, but he wants him to bring him like a big story, and so he's tasked with trying to track down a murder, and so he's got to find a murder, and so he goes into investigation mode. And this is another one that is kind of this investigative type story, which I really like. There's elements here, at least one scene in particular, where he goes to the newspaper that he used to work for, that really reminded me of like All the President's Men, the movie with Redford and Dustin Hoffman. And so you kind of get a little bit of that sort of vibe to it, which I love that film. And so he goes out looking for this story. He ends up meeting this hooker at the bar, and there's a little bit of a romance there, but it's kind of more of just two people who are kind of broken, kind of finding each other, and they're sort of using each other to find some sort of happiness and light in the dark world, sort of thing. And so I guess if you want to call it romance, that actually works quite well here. I would say it's the episode that handles that sort of romantic type of relationship the best, and in the most kind of mature type of way. And so I appreciated that about it. And then ultimately where it leads to is it's just really good. This is another one that's a really good story, and I like ultimately where it goes and what he is required to do or not do to get his story. And I really like that. The only reason that what kept this one from being at the very top tier is this one starts off with the main character breaking the fourth wall, addressing the camera. And so he's telling this story that we see, and then you get to the very end and he's addressing the camera again, and I won't give anything away, but something is revealed. And based on how the episode ended up until that point, you're like, okay, cool. And then what you see at the very last shot is like, well, wait, what happened there? So I felt like they kind of left out a vital part of the story that sort of got us from this point to this point, to where it's like, well, what happened? We needed more. There needed to be something to kind of bridge these two gaps. And so it left me just a little bit unsatisfied. But anyways, still overall a good episode. Okay, episode 13 is Spoiled, and this one is going at the very bottom. This was my least favorite episode of the season. And the reason why is because I don't like soap operas, and this one plays out like a soap opera. And it tells a story of this middle-aged woman. She's married to a doctor, but he's married to his work, and she wants her life to be filled with, passion and danger and all this sort of stuff. And she can't get any attention out of her husband. And so she starts kind of living out her fantasies, but that she's seeing on TV from her favorite soap opera star. And so this one has a very, over the top, over dramatic soap opera type quality to it that I just didn't really buy into or jive with. She just becomes increasingly more desperate for any sort of, attention or affection. And it leads to the point where the cable guy shows up, and she starts putting the moves on the cable guy. And let me tell you, the double entendres in this episode are so insane, like you kind of just can't even believe it. Like everything they say is some sort of like, lewd, crude sort of, sexual reference, but they're talking about installing cable. And it's just so ridiculous and just dumb. This one too, I was just like waiting for the horror to show up and waiting. And really most of the episode is her just trying to figure out how she's going to sneak around behind her husband's back to hook up with the cable guy. And like I said, I was waiting for the horror to kick in. And then when it finally kicks in, which is like in the last 2 minutes, it's just dumb. And it's just dumb. And yeah, I really just did not like this episode at all. However, that does take me to the last episode titled Yellow. And this one is pretty fantastic. This one is not only going at the very top, but it is going in the front position. Come on, get in there. Go, go. There we go. Yeah, this is the best episode. They saved the best for last for season 3. This one is fantastic. What makes this so great is that you've got a solid cast. You've got Kirk Douglas. You've got Lance Henriksen. You've got Dan Aykroyd of all people. And this one was directed by Robert Zemeckis. And what makes this one so great is that this is a dramatic war story that is very reminiscent. And I would even say not exactly a remake, but definitely pays homage to one of my favorite war films of all time, and that is Paths of Glory, starring Kirk Douglas. Can you see? There it is. Starring Kirk Douglas. So very clearly a nod to this film, directed by the great Stanley Kubrick as well. And I just kind of loved it. This is a fantastic story. This one, too, you can tell that there's just a higher production value to it. They definitely had more money here, at least I would imagine. And this one, too, it feels more like a short film. This one clocks in at 39 minutes, where most of these are, 27, 28 minutes. And so, you get a little bit more there. And it's just a really well-told story. And it's got, the horror here is just the horror of war and really what people are willing to do in war and how it can ultimately dehumanize us. And it's just really good. More specifically, though, the story here, Kirk Douglas plays the general, and he's got all of his troops. They're in the trenches, and they're attacking the Germans, and they're trying to take this hill to, gain ground. And his son is there, and his son is the kind of the reputation around, the bunker, the trenches, is that he's a coward, which the general can't have. And so he talks with his son, and he's like, listen, if you go out and do this mission, and he's sending his son and a couple other guys out into no man's land to repair this broken communications wire. He's like, listen, if you can go out there and do that and come back safely, I'll transfer you so you won't be on the front lines. And what makes this even more powerful is that his son is played by his real life son, Eric Douglas. And so the father-son dynamic here is the large thrust of the story. And dude, it's just powerful. It's really well written and just very well directed. The performances are solid. And there's some scenes here between the father and the son where they're talking that they just kind of hit you, and you kind of can't help but connect with and feel. And the ending is devastating and so brutal, and it has so much to say about, again, war and what it does to people, but also too about how sons look at their fathers and fathers look at their sons and that relationship. And it's pretty fantastic. This is genuinely great. And I would say, at least up to this point, if you do not watch any Tales from the Crypt episode except one, at least through the first 3 seasons, you gotta watch this one. It is awesome. So that concludes my tier list, everybody. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for watching. And like I said, let me know down below, do you like the kind of tier list ranking style better? Do you like more of the traditional ranking? Be curious to hear from you guys on your thoughts there. And also, too, let me know some of your favorite episodes of Season 3. But yeah, having a really good time going through this, and glad I've finally gotten around to this show. It's there's a lot of good stuff here that I'm really enjoying. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Greatly appreciate it. If you got anything out of this video, go ahead and do me a favor, and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.